"I don't want a soldier," she said. "I want you as my husband." Captain Elias Northstar stood at the viewport of the diplomatic vessel Concordia, watching as the swirling azure planet of Lysoria grew larger. After 15 years of brutal interstellar conflict with the Lysorians, he still couldn't believe he'd been chosen as humanity's peace envoy. "Captain, final approach protocols initiated," Lieutenant Maya Chen announced from behind him. "The Lysorian escort vessels are positioning themselves." Elias nodded, straightening his formal military uniform. The insignias and medals felt heavy, each one representing battles against the very people he was now supposed to make peace with. "You've fought them longer than anyone else in the delegation," Admiral Reeves had told him during the briefing. "They'll respect that. Show strength, but be willing to bend. Humanity needs this treaty." The ship shuddered slightly as it entered Lysoria's atmosphere. Through the clouds, crystalline spires emerged. The famous capital city of Nyxerial, untouched by human weapons despite numerous attempts during the war's darkest days. As the landing sequence completed, Elias took a deep breath. "Time to meet our former enemies," he said to himself. The Lysorian welcoming party waited on the landing platform, tall, dignified figures with skin in various shades of blue and violet. At their center stood Princess Nivara, daughter of High Counselor Talon and heir to the Lysorian High Council. Her sapphire complexion caught the light of Lysoria's twin suns, making her appear to glow from within. The ceremonial robes she wore flowed like liquid starlight around her slender form. When Elias descended the ramp, he maintained the precise, measured steps of a military officer. His eyes met Nivara's, deep indigo orbs that seemed to hold the depth of space itself. "Captain Northstar," she said, her voice melodic with the distinct harmonic overtones of Lysorian speech. "Lysoria acknowledges your arrival and the peaceful intent it represents." Elias executed a formal bow. "Princess Nivara, Earth sends its regards and hope for a new chapter between our peoples." The formalities continued as introductions were made to the rest of the High Council representatives. Elias noticed how Nivara's movements were graceful yet restrained, each gesture carefully controlled, a prisoner of protocol, just as he was. Later that evening, during the formal reception, Elias found himself standing alone on a balcony overlooking the capital. The city's crystal towers reflected the light of the setting suns, creating a kaleidoscope effect that no human artist could ever capture. "It's called the Twilight Symphony," came a voice behind him. Princess Nivara approached, having shed some of her more elaborate ceremonial garments but still regal in simpler attire. "The way light plays through our cities at dusk. It happens nowhere else in the galaxy." Elias nodded. "It's beautiful. Nothing like this survived on our border worlds." A shadow passed over Nivara's features. "And nothing like your forests of green remain on ours. War has taken much from both our peoples." For a moment, they stood in silence, not the comfortable silence of friends, but the heavy quiet of those who recognize the weight of history between them. "Your reputation precedes you, Captain," Nivara said finally. "The Battle of Proxima Centauri, the defense of New Terra. Our military strategists studied your tactics." "As I studied yours," Elias replied. "The siege of Vartox Prime, the Lysorian flanking technique. Your father's defensive innovations saved countless Lysorian lives." Something shifted in Nivara's expression. Surprise. Perhaps that he would acknowledge her father's achievements with respect rather than bitterness. "Tomorrow, the real negotiations begin," she said. "Many on both sides don't believe peace is possible." "Do you?" Elias asked. The princess turned to face him fully, her indigo eyes searching his. "I have to," she whispered. "The alternative is extinction for both our species." As she turned to leave, Elias caught a final glimpse of her profile against the twilight sky, not as an alien princess or a diplomatic counterpart, but as a person carrying hopes as heavy as his own. "Until tomorrow, Captain," she said. "Until tomorrow, Princess," he replied, watching her disappear back into the palace, wondering if somewhere between their differences lay the seeds of understanding that might save them all. 3 weeks into the peace negotiations, Elias found himself walking through the Celestial Gardens, a vast biodome containing flora from across Lysorian territories. Princess Nivara had suggested this cultural exchange after a particularly tense negotiation session regarding disputed territories. "These luminescent blooms," Nivara explained, gesturing toward flowers that pulsed with gentle blue light, were almost driven to extinction during the bombardment of Cressida Colony. Her voice held no accusation, only sadness. Elias knelt beside the flowers. On Earth, we had cherry blossoms that would fall like pink snow each spring. My hometown was famous for them. Had? Nivara inquired. The Lysorian thermal strike of 2189 changed the climate patterns. They don't bloom anymore. He stood, meeting her gaze. But we're not here to compare scars, are we? A small smile touched Nivara's lips. No. High Counselor Drevin believes I'm showing you our botanical achievements to demonstrate Lysorian superiority. And what does your father think? That I'm wasting time with gardens when territorial boundaries remain unresolved. She led him deeper into the gardens, away from the ever-present guards and diplomatic aides. But I've found that understanding between peoples begins with small things. Flowers, music, stories. They reached a secluded alcove where a small waterfall cascaded into a pool filled with bioluminescent creatures that darted like living stars. This is my sanctuary. Nivara confessed. Few outsiders have seen it. Why show me? The princess sat on a curved stone bench. Because you listen, not just to our demands and concerns during negotiations, but to the meaning behind them. She gestured for him to join her. Most humans see only our differences. Elias sat beside her, acutely aware of how improper this private meeting would appear to both their delegations. I've had 15 years to contemplate those differences across battlefields. They seem smaller now. Tell me about your family, Nivara asked suddenly. The question caught him off guard. My parents died in the early days of the war. My sister survived until the Battle of Europa. He paused. She was a doctor, not a soldier. Nivara reached out, her azure fingers hovering inches from his hand before withdrawing. I lost 3 brothers to this conflict. The youngest had never even seen a human. In that moment, something shifted between them. The abstract notion of enemy casualties transformed into real people with names and dreams and families who mourned them. How do we convince people who have lost so much that peace is worth the compromise? Elias asked. Perhaps we start by believing it ourselves, Nivara replied softly. Their conversation continued as twin moons rose above the garden dome. They spoke of childhoods on different planets, of foods and music, of the weight of expectations. With each shared story, the space between soldier and princess, human and Lysorian, seemed to narrow. As the garden's bioluminescence dimmed to signal the late hour, Nivara stood. Tomorrow's session addresses military demobilization. It won't be easy. No, Elias agreed, rising to stand before her. But I'll remember this garden when tempers flare. As will I. She hesitated, then performed a gesture he recognized as a Lysorian farewell between equals, not the formal one protocol demanded. Good night, Elias Northstar. It was the first time she had used his first name. Good night, Nivara, he replied, returning the gesture imperfectly but sincerely. As they walked back toward the palace, carefully maintaining proper distance, both were aware that something fundamental had changed. A border crossed that no diplomatic map could chart. The emergency communication terminal in Elias's quarters chimed at midnight. Admiral Reeves's face appeared grim and accusatory. Captain, explain yourself, he demanded without preamble. Intelligence reports you've been having private meetings with the Lysorian princess. Unauthorized fraternization with cultural exchanges, sir, Elias interrupted, standing at attention despite the late hour. Building diplomatic rapport. Rapport? The Admiral's eyebrow raised. Some of your own team members report you seem captivated by her. Remember your duty, Captain. Get close enough to secure favorable terms, not to compromise your objectivity. After the Admiral signed off, Elias stared out at the Lysorian capital, its crystalline towers gleaming under the moons. He couldn't deny it anymore. His feelings for Nivara had grown beyond diplomatic interest or even friendship. The next morning, negotiations nearly collapsed. Counselor Drevin accused humans of hiding military installations in supposedly demilitarized zones. The Earth delegation countered with evidence of Lysorian treaty violations. As voices rose, Elias caught Nivara's eye across the chamber. The silent communication between them, a slight nod, a subtle gesture, helped steer both sides back from the brink. Later that evening, a coded message arrived. Northern Observation Dome. Second moonrise, Elias knew he should decline. Instead, he found himself climbing the spiral staircase to the observatory where Nivara waited, silhouetted against the stars. "We shouldn't be meeting like this," he said, even as he moved closer to her. "I know." Nivara's voice was soft. "My father's advisors have warned him that I appear partial to the human delegation. To you specifically." Rain began to fall, drumming against the crystal dome above them. The sound created a curtain of privacy around them. "Are they wrong?" Elias asked. Nivara turned to him, her indigo eyes reflecting the starlight. "No," she stepped closer. "For 15 years I've watched our peoples destroy each other. I've lost family, friends. I've mourned them and hated humanity for it. And now I see you. Not as Captain Northstar, not as Earth's envoy, but as Elias." Her hand reached up to touch his face, her azure skin a stark contrast against his. "You speak of Earth's forests with such love. You remember the names of every Lustrum who addresses you. You carry such pain, yet still hope for peace." Elias caught her hand in his. "Nivara, tomorrow we sign preliminary accords that may end this war," she whispered. "But tonight I need to speak truth, not diplomacy." Her eyes held his with intensity. "I don't want a soldier. I want you as my husband." The words hung between them, impossible and inevitable. Elias knew all the reasons to step away: duty, loyalty, the fragility of the peace process. Instead, he drew her closer. "How can this work? Our worlds need a bridge," she finished. "Perhaps we could be that bridge." When their lips met, it was like worlds colliding, tentative at first, then with growing certainty. Her skin felt cooler than a human's, and she smelled of flowers that had never grown on Earth. His warmth seemed to surprise her, her fingers exploring the contours of his face with wonder. The kiss deepened, transcending species and conflict, becoming something new and unprecedented. When they finally parted, both were breathing heavily, foreheads pressed together. "If anyone discovers this," Elias began. "They already suspect," Nivara said. "Counselor Drevin has spies everywhere. And your Admiral Reeves warned me last night," Elias admitted. "This could destroy everything we've worked for." Nivara stepped back, though her hands remained in his. "Or it could be the beginning of something greater than a mere treaty." Her expression grew serious. "But we cannot pretend this will be easy." As if summoned by her words, the observatory door slid open. High Counselor Talon stood in the entrance, his expression unreadable as he observed his daughter's hands clasped with the human captain's. "Father," Nivara said, her voice steady though her grip on Elias's hand tightened. Talon's gaze moved between them. "So the rumors are true," he said quietly. "You have chosen." Elias straightened his shoulders, facing the Lysorian leader who had been his people's greatest adversary for over a decade. Whatever came next would change everything. For them, for their peoples, for the fragile peace they had only just begun to build. "This is unprecedented." High Counselor Talon's voice echoed in his private chambers where Elias and Nivara stood before him. A Lysorian royal and a human soldier. "Father, Nivara began. Talon raised his hand. "I did not bring you here for explanations, daughter." His gaze shifted to Elias. "Captain Northstar, do you understand what this means? Our species have shed each other's blood for generations." "I understand, High Counselor," Elias replied, standing straight as though at military inspection. "But I also understand that peace requires more than signatures on documents." For a long moment, Talon studied him. "You speak boldly for someone in your position." Then, unexpectedly, his severe expression softened. "But perhaps boldness is what both our worlds need now." Both Elias and Nivara stared in surprise. "You think I disapprove?" Talon moved to a wall panel, revealing an ancient tapestry depicting Lysorians and other species in harmony. Before the war, there were rare unions between our kinds. They were considered special, bridges between worlds. Hope flickered between the couple, but it was short-lived. However, Talon continued, not everyone shares this perspective. Counselor Drevin has already called for Captain Northstar's removal from the diplomatic mission, claiming compromised objectivity. And your Earth superiors, he addressed Elias directly, have requested an emergency communication with you. As if on cue, Elias's communication device chimed. Admiral Reeves's message was blunt. Return to the Concordia immediately. Your diplomatic credentials are suspended pending review. They can't do this, Nivara protested. The accords are nearly complete. They can and have, Elias said grimly. Lieutenant Chen will take over as interim envoy. Talon's expression grew somber. Reactionaries on both sides fear what your relationship represents. The true integration of our species, not just political alliance. What can we do? Nivara asked. For now, Captain Northstar must return to his vessel as ordered, Talon said. I will speak with the Earth delegation. Nivara, you must address the High Council. And us? Elias asked, reaching for Nivara's hand. Keep your distance, Talon advised. Until we secure the peace, your union threatens everything we've worked toward. Parting was harder than any battle Elias had ever fought. As he boarded the shuttle back to the Concordia, Nivara's final whispered words stayed with him. This separation is temporary. Our future is not. Aboard the Concordia, Elias faced Admiral Reeves's holographic projection. 15 years of exemplary service, Captain. And you risk it all for an alien princess? With respect, sir, my feelings for Princess Nivara haven't compromised the negotiations. If anything, they've strengthened my commitment to lasting peace. Romantic notions don't win wars or secure advantageous peace terms, Reeves countered. Perhaps that's been our problem all along, Elias replied. For 3 agonizing weeks, Elias remained confined to the Concordia, while the peace process teetered on collapse. Reports reached him of heated debates in the High Council, with Drevin leading opposition against the treaty and, more specifically, against any potential union between Nivara and a human. Then came news that chilled Elias's blood, an assassination attempt against Nivara during a public ceremony. Though she escaped with minor injuries, the message was clear. There were those who would rather see her dead than united with a human. That night, disregarding orders, Elias took a stealth shuttle to the surface. He found Nivara in the Celestial Gardens, her arm bandaged, her expression resolute. You shouldn't be here, she said, though she moved into his embrace without hesitation. I couldn't stay away, not after hearing what happened. His fingers traced her bandaged arm gently. Who did this? Extremists, she replied. They left a message. Death before dilution. Elias's jaw tightened. I'm taking you somewhere safe. Running won't solve this, Nivara said. My father has called for a public address tomorrow. He plans to endorse our relationship as symbolic of the new era between our peoples. That's courageous, Elias said. It's necessary, she corrected him. He sees what we saw, that true peace requires more than treaties. It needs living embodiment. The next day, Elias watched from hiding as High Counselor Talon addressed the gathered Lysorians and human delegates. His words were transmitted across both fleets and homeworlds. For 15 years, we have known humans only as enemies, Talon began. But before that, our histories speak of collaboration, of cultural exchange, even of love between our species. He paused. My daughter has reminded me of this forgotten truth. Her heart has chosen Captain Elias Northstar, and in their union, I see hope for a future beyond mere coexistence. As murmurs spread through the crowd, Nivara stepped forward, standing tall despite the visible bandage on her arm. I love a human, she declared, her voice steady. If this makes me unfit for leadership in your eyes, so be it. But I believe it makes me precisely what our people need. Someone who sees beyond our differences to the shared future that awaits. In the Concordia's command center, Lieutenant Chen turned to Admiral Reeves. Sir, public sentiment is shifting. The princess's statement. People are responding. Reeves watched the transmission with narrowed eyes. Bring Captain Northstar to my quarters, he said finally. It seems we have a wedding to discuss. The Grand Convocation Hall of Nixarial had never hosted such a gathering. Representatives from every human colony and Lysorian province filled the crystal chamber, their former enmity set aside for this historic day. Elias stood at the center of the hall, wearing a formal uniform specially designed for the occasion. Traditional human military styling integrated with elements of Lysorian ceremonial garb. His heart pounded as the ancient Lysorian melody announced the arrival of his bride. Nivara appeared at the hall's entrance, her azure skin luminescent against flowing robes of silver and white. As she moved toward him, time seemed to slow. This moment, impossible just months ago, now represented hope for billions across 2 civilizations. Admiral Reeves stood at Elias's side. His initial opposition transformed into grudging support after witnessing the power of their union to accelerate peace negotiations. "Don't make me regret this, Captain," he had said that morning, adjusting Elias's collar in an almost fatherly gesture. High Counselor Talon accompanied his daughter, his face solemn yet proud. When they reached Elias, Talon placed Nivara's hand in his, the symbolic transferring of not just a daughter, but a future. "Today," began the officiant, a respected elder who had survived the first Lysorian-human conflict, "we witness more than the union of two beings. We witness the healing of a divide that has claimed millions of lives." The ceremony blended traditions from both worlds. They exchanged vows in both languages, their words translated for all to hear. Elias promised to honor Nivara's heritage while building new traditions together. Nivara vowed to stand with Elias as equal partners in the bridge between their peoples. When they sealed their union with a kiss, the hall erupted in applause, tentative at first, then building to thunderous approval. Not universal. Some remained seated, their reservations visible, but enough to signal a true shift in consciousness. At the reception that followed, Elias and Nivara moved among their guests, their hands rarely separating. Former adversaries raised glasses and cautious toasts. Scientists from both species eagerly discussed collaborative projects now possible. Children, including orphans of the war, presented the couple with artwork depicting humans and Lysorians together among the stars. Captain Northstar, Admiral Reeves, approached, glass in hand. "The provisional government has a proposition. We're establishing the first joint human-Lysorian settlement on Proxima Centauri's fourth planet. They want to name it Elivara. A combination of your names," clarified Counselor Viridian, who had replaced the ousted Dreven. "If you approve." Nivara's fingers tightened around Elias's. "We would be honored," she answered for them both. As evening fell, the couple slipped away to a balcony overlooking the city. The Twilight Symphony played across Nixarial's spires, but now Elias saw it differently. Not as alien beauty, but as home. "What are you thinking?" Nivara asked, leaning into his embrace. "About all we've overcome to reach this moment," he replied, "and all that still lies ahead." "Challenges remain," she acknowledged. "Not everyone celebrates our union. Some still cling to old hatreds. True peace was never going to come easily," Elias said, "but we've made a beginning." Nivara turned in his arms, her indigo eyes meeting his. "More than a beginning. The peace accord is signed. The joint settlement breaks ground next month. And we," she smiled, guiding his hand to rest against her abdomen, "have created something unprecedented." Elias's eyes widened. "You mean, the medical teams confirmed it yesterday," she said softly. "The first natural Lysorian human child. A true bridge between worlds." Overcome, Elias pulled her close, his forehead resting against hers. No words could capture the magnitude of this revelation. Life created across the boundaries that had once seemed insurmountable. Later that night, in their private chambers, they stood before the star map that displayed both their home systems and all that lay between. "When I first arrived on Lysoria," Elias mused, "these stars represented vast distances separating our peoples. Now they're the lights that guide us home," Nivara finished. "Whichever world we stand upon." She reached for his hand, twining her fingers with his, azure against tan, different yet perfectly interlocked. Outside their window, the first transport ships carried mixed crews of humans and Lysorians, departing for joint missions that would once have been unimaginable. "Not a soldier anymore," Nivara whispered, echoing her words from that rainy night in the observatory. "No," Elias agreed, drawing her close. "Something far greater." As Lysoria's twin moons rose above the horizon, their light fell upon the couple, no longer divided by war, species, or custom, but united in a love that had rewritten the stars themselves. On a distant view screen in the settlement planning office, the architectural renderings for Elivara colony rotated slowly. A city designed for two species to live as one, its foundations already taking shape on a world that would know only peace. The end.